In a world overflowing with data, choosing the right information to get the right insights is like finding a pearl in an ocean of oysters. Are you ready to transform your understanding of data and its impact on your business? Well, today you're going to meet Susan Walsh, the woman who turned a career hiccup into a pioneering role as the classification guru. She shares secrets behind effective data management, which can lead to remarkable business transformations for you and your data teams. Coming up on today's episode, unlocking data's challenges. Dirty data? Well, here are some clean solutions. AI versus human insight. We get Susan's verdict. Now, Susan, having run a successful business in data for the last 6 years, what do you think are the biggest challenges in data and things that people get wrong?
Honestly, I don't think I thought I'd still be in business 6 years ago, because I thought tech's going to take over and it's going to run me out of business. And actually what has happened is there's more data than ever, and there's more people using data. And the biggest data problems are people problems, because it's the inputting of the data at source that causes most of the data problems. And what we need to recognize is that a lot of the people who are inputting the data at source are not data professionals. So we need to talk to them and train them in a different way to make it less intimidating, make it more relatable and understanding. And honestly, through the 6 years that I've been talking about cleaning data, dirty data, and it still goes on to this day, people or organizations will not invest upfront in cleaning their data before implementing software, before changing ERPs or CRM systems. They wait, they just move it all over and expect the new system to fix it all. And then they have to pay a fortune when it doesn't work, because then you have to clean it. And the biggest frustration for me is if you had just paid to clean it up front, it would have cost you a lot less time, stress, effort, money. And so that's something that is still a challenge, and I think will be a challenge for years to come, which means, great, I'm going to be in business for a wee while. But you were talking about AI, and again, I think years ago, a lot of companies that were in the space, and especially in the procurement space, did an amazing job of saying, it's okay, the AI will fix it all. It's going to do everything. And so people still have that belief. And what they don't realise is, and what I tell them every time I talk and stand on a stage is, guess where that data from the AI comes from? Training data sets. And guess what? If they're not clean, it's going to learn bad data and spread that bad data throughout more systems. How do you get that clean data set? Guess what? You have to use people. So there's always going to need to be an element of people involved. And depending on the type of industry and data, will depend on the different level of involvement. But yeah, it's crazy. And I think I forgot to tell you the kind of companies that I worked for, but across industries, from marketing, manufacturing, private equity firms, software, education, they all have the same problems.
How often have you heard, we know the data isn't right, but we're going to use it anyway? I have my own theory on this, but I'd love to get your thoughts.
So again, it comes back to trying to get sign off to clean the data. I think one of the things that's really hard to justify cleaning data is it's not necessarily a tangible thing. Like, we're buying this piece of software that's going to do something. Cleaning data, it's like, I guess, like cleaning your house. You pay for it. You can visibly see it. And so what I try to do with potential clients, if we do sample sets of data for them, or existing clients, we always create new columns and put the clean data in new columns so that they can see the before and after. Because most people who are making the decisions to sign off the data have no idea what a good or a bad spreadsheet looks like. A spreadsheet's a spreadsheet to them. It's like me looking at a maths formula. Like, it means nothing. So by showing them the before and after, there's a better chance of them understanding the value in what's being done. But also, it's a kind of like, you don't want to have a look under the hood. It's a Pandora's box kind of situation, you know. This is the bad stuff we know about. What's the stuff we don't know about?
In your experience, Susan, with big data projects, how often is data accuracy and governance genuinely prioritized?
Yeah, and I also think that it's kind of like the question of how big is big data. And when they go with, we need more data. And actually, I find that most clients I speak to, I say, what's your end goal? What are you looking for in the output? What do you want to find out? What do you want to know? And they're not thinking about that enough, because if you know what you need to find out, then you know what kind of data you need. You know, if, you know, we get a lot of finance data, we get PO dates, invoice dates, we might get units of measure, we might get price per unit. Like, to classify the what we really need is supplier name, invoice description, maybe a PO description and a GL description. That would be the ideal. Values would be general ledger, which is general ledger code, which is a finance classification, which is not great, but helps guide if you don't know where you should put your classification. Values help a lot because, for example, a hotel, if it's a £20,000 bill, chances are that's going to be for venue hire rather than accommodation. So we have a kind of in-house rule. Anything below 5 to 10k is probably accommodation. Anything above that is going to be venue hire. So that's where our values can help guide those kind of things. But I mean, we can work with as little as a company name and the country that they're based in. Now, obviously, you're not going to get the same amount of information or results as you would with more detail, but we can still do something with it. It's just understanding what your output will be, what you can achieve with it, and then figuring out, do we want that, or do we want to go and try and get more detailed information from our system?
A fascinating study was done around 10 years ago on horse racing betting experts, where they could predict the winners off just 7 points of data. However, when the testers introduced more and more and more data points, the actual accuracy of these experts decreased. Now, Susan, what are your thoughts on this, and how would you overcome this, especially for corporate business data teams?
That's not the problem. It's having the right data. You can have 4 data points that are super accurate and will help make you make the best decisions, or you could have 100 data points that are all wrong, right? No amount of more data is going to help you make a better decision there. It's not about the size or amount of data. It's about the quality of the data you've got. I'll give you a perfect example. So I talked about an invoice description, a PO description, and a general ledger description. So quite often the invoice might say something like, it might say it's Dell is the supplier, and the spend is monitors, laptops, keyboards, and then the PO description is like computer supplies, and then the general ledger description is office supplies. Now, that's very common because finance have a different lens from procurement when they're looking at this kind of stuff, because they probably bought it for the office. That's what they're thinking. Whereas we classify what it is. So we would always classify it as a computer, as monitor, so it's all be under IT. But somebody who doesn't know classification would be skewed by the general ledger description. And so, by adding those extra things in, it can be more confusing. You learn by making mistakes. So, in the early days, quite often we would use the general ledger code to classify things, thinking, oh, this is great. And then the client would be like, this is so wrong. And now I actually say to the client, it's like, if you want us to classify using the general ledger, you don't really need us, that we're here to make it right, and quite often general ledger descriptions can be very vague, like hardware. Well, is that computer hardware? Is that telecom hardware? Is that building hardware? It could be a very vague description and misleading.
I know, and you know, technology is not going to solve for people making mistakes, but I'd love to get your thoughts on what they can do.
I hear all the time that graduates will come out of their nice little sanitized bubble of data at university and get into the real world, and they are hit with a nuclear bomb of mess, and they have no idea how to deal with it. And now these graduates are exceptionally skilled in writing code, doing AI, machine learning, but they haven't been taught the basics. And so I actually launched a course earlier this year, just fixing data in Excel, and it's just names, addresses, emails, phone numbers. And I actually give with the course a dirty data set so that people can actually do it themselves with their own dirty data set, because the best way you can understand if your code is working, if your AI output is correct, is understanding the data before it goes in. And the only way that you really get to do that is by interrogating it in Excel or some kind of visualization tool. And I think that's where we are falling down. I mean, just maybe like 4 years ago, when the business was still quite slow, I took on like contract jobs and things, and I was managing a team. And I had a politics graduate on my team, and I asked her to schedule a meeting with her, myself, and someone from HR. And the next day I was like, oh, did you schedule that meeting? She was like, oh, no, I haven't done it yet. And I said, well, why not? She's like, oh, I don't know how to do it. She's a graduate in politics or currently studying it, and she didn't know how to set up a meeting in Outlook. Now, am I naive in expecting them to be taught those kind of things? It just... wow. But then, is that just her personality? Because I have a data analyst on my team. He's mid-20s. He came to me as a Kickstarter as part of the government program. And if he doesn't know something, he just goes and finds out and learns it. He doesn't even ask me. He just does it. So part of it, I think, is people and mindsets. But I think universities need to do a better job at training people to be inquisitive and just, like skills. Like I did Excel at uni in 97 and Access 97.
Now, as we wrap up today, Susan, how can people look into your courses, or what are the things that you offer that can help people learning more about data and data classification?
Yeah, if they go to theclassificationguru.com, then it's available through that. I also have a book called Between the Spreadsheets, which I have left my copy in another room. That's called Classifying and Fixing Dirty Data. So if you're on a budget, that's a more kind of affordable option.
Now, your career and business transformation can move forward after learning all these great insights from Susan, and you can learn how to spot those data pearls. So follow Susan Walsh's insights on data classification by connecting with her on LinkedIn. I think she's awesome. And to find more ways of leveling up your understanding of data and its impact on products, watch this previous interview we did with Bhavik Patel. Again, a brilliant guy. And today's episode was brought to you in partnership with our friends at Amplitude. And until next time, from me, Ross Webb, bye for now.